look at like something like this guy, it says a landscaper would like to install a garden using the shape below, find the perimeter and area of the figure. And so when we look at this thing, this is where we would use things like arc length and sector area and that kind of stuff. And notice it asks for the perimeter and the area. So let's start with the perimeter. Okay, so the perimeter is kind of going back to arc length and that kind of stuff. If we look at this thing, let's split it into two shapes. If I were to kind of draw a line segment across here. So now I have a rectangle and I have a semicircle. And so when you look at this, well, this rectangle is 16 feet on this side. Over here, this would be 10 feet. And here's the thing, that 10 feet that I just drew with that dotted line, that's not part of the perimeter, but that's information I need about the circle. If I kind of think about this circle as a whole, now I can see that the diameter of that circle is 10 feet, and the radius is 5 feet. And that becomes important when I start to look at the perimeter of this whole thing, okay? So now let's talk about the perimeter. The perimeter is made up of these three pieces of the rectangle, okay? So the 16, the 10, and the 16. And so for the perimeter of the rectangular piece, I just want those three pieces. I want the 16 plus 10 plus 16, okay? And it's as simple as that. It's 42 feet, okay? So that's the perimeter of that bottom piece. Now the perimeter of the top piece, well, that's this arc, okay? That's this semicircle that's up here. And so what I want to do is I want part of the perimeter here, or part of the circumference of that circle. So I would say, okay, the circumference of the circle equals 2 pi r, and r this time is a 5. Okay, or we could do pi d, which is 10 times pi, which is, we get the same thing anyway. A little bit of calculator work here. Again, I'm going to multiply by 3.14 this time. And that's feet. But now that's for the entire circle. I don't want the entire circle. I only want half the circle. So we can just divide this by 2. Or if we're thinking about it in terms of the angle for half of a circle, the angle associated with this is 180 degrees. So if I'm multiplying this by a fraction, it's 180 out of the 360. Okay? But again, if you recognize that it's a semicircle, that it's half a circle, just divide by 2. Okay, so the circumference that I'm looking for here, when I divide that 31.4 divided by 2, or times the 180 over 360, I get a 15.7 feet. Okay, and so as I start to look around this thing, that is that arc at the top. The pieces at the bottom all add up. So I do the 42 plus the 15.7, and I get a total of 57.7 feet. Okay, so that's the perimeter of this thing. Okay, so the perimeter of the shape is 57.7 feet, and that's important because if we're building a garden, we probably want to put some landscaping around this thing, some edging, that kind of stuff. Well, this tells me how much of that I need to buy. Okay, likewise, we're probably going to fill this garden with something like mulch and flowers and that kind of stuff. So we also need the area of this thing, and so going back to this guy, if I kind of erase some of these pieces. When I look at the bottom of this thing, again, it's a rectangle. To find the area of a rectangle, if I kind of scroll down a little bit, the area of the rectangle is just going to be base times height, so 10 times the 16. So the area of the rectangular portion is 160 square feet. Okay, and again, that's just the area of this entire thing down here, okay? That's that entire area of that rectangular piece. But now I need the area of the semicircle. Well, I treat it like a sector. I say, hey, the area of the sector, I'm going to do the area of the circle, which is pi r squared. Again, the radius is 5. But then what happens is that when it's all said and done, I'm going to multiply that by a fraction. So here, that's 25 pi. Again, my calculator can do the work for me on this one, times 3.14. I'm just using the 3.14 every time. So 78.5, but I don't want the whole circle. I only wanted half the circle. And again, just recognizing that's a semicircle that it's half, I can just divide this value by 2. Or if I'm officially looking at it in terms of, hey, this represents 180 of the 360 degrees. So down here, that's 180 out of the 360. Which again is the same thing as multiplying by 1/2. It's the same thing as dividing by 2. And so I get from my sector area 39.25 square feet. Well, if I want the total area, I need to add these two things together. So I'm going to add that to the 160 over here. And so I get a total area of 199.25 square feet. Okay? So it's just that idea that sometimes we only want part of a circle to construct something. And sometimes it's going to be important to find the perimeter of that, which means I need arc length. Sometimes it's going to be important to find the area, so I need that sector area. Okay? And now I'm using that area addition once again. Okay?